Hi, I'm Gretel with Sunny Meadows Flower Farm, and we're going to talk about dahlia dividing. So dahlia tubers are a big part of what we do, sell online, and that helps keep our employees have hours through the winter. So we are zone 6A, 6B, I think now, and so they need to be lifted every winter and then replanted in the spring. Behind me are all the dahlia tubers for cuttings, which is a way that we increase our production. But we have a lot that are from tubers also. So I'm just gonna show y'all with the dahlias. Okay, so all of them, you plant one tuber and you get a clump, and then the clump, it needs divided. So there are eyes in the middle, which right now are dormant, so they're hard to see. Um, but every tuber needs the tuber, the neck, and the crown. So the crown is going to be where the eyes are. And then our rule is if you don't know if you can divide it to get two like viable tubers, then we don't cut it again. So a lot of times they're not divided down to like a single tuber. So first thing I'm going to do is like clean it up. So like this one's shrivelly, so we're going to cut that off. Cut off some of these like root hairs, just so that you can kind of see what's going on in there. So you need a piece of what was the old stem, like that's where the crown is going to be. So they're like potatoes in that they sprout eyes, but they're unlike them in that they only sprout them like where the stem was last year. So this one here, I can see an eye right there. So there's like, that is going to be an eye. So I'm going to take my snips and like put them in there and just kind of cut this in half. So then this one has an eye here, and I won't divide this one again because if I cut these ones off, it's either going to make a really small tuber, or sometimes you end up cutting too close that you cut off where the eye is going to be. So we make piles of firsts and seconds. This would be a first. So if you cut into it and you feel like it's maybe you cut too close or you can't see the eye anymore, then it goes in the seconds. The seconds are what we plant. So because we sell tubers, it's important for us to have like a tuber that's a nice like viable tuber like for sale. So then this one again has a spot I can tell has an eye right here, and then also another spot over here that looks like there's a piece of stem. I'm going to cut this in half again. So then this would be an example of a second, because when I cut it, the piece that had the eye on it came off really tiny. And then this one, I'm not sure if it has an eye. So we're going to put that in the seconds pile. And then this one, I don't think I would cut again either, because for the same situation where the eye looks like it is a small one. And so we want to leave this like as a clump for sale, but I can cut off this little dead shrivelly one. So I'm going to pass those around maybe. Okay, so let's do another one. Sometimes the tubers are like a little individual, like something like this. This is sort of like an ideal, makes it easier because you can actually see like all of the center. So I'm going to cut off this ugly one. And then this one, because they're all small, I might just leave it whole. Just clean it up. There's where the eye would be. So here's another one if you want to. Okay, and then other times you're going to have this like big, massive clump. So when we dig, we just kind of like knock the dirt off, and the digger knocks some of the dirt off, but we're not like cleaning them. And that's because the dirt helps, like in storage, helps them stay hydrated. It also allows for like little root hairs to kind of like dry up on their own, instead of, if you wash them off, then all of these, as like, they're going to die a lot faster, which can lead to more shriveling in your tubers. So sometimes you have to excavate them a little bit. I'm going to use these to just kind of like get some of these clumps of dirt out so that you can see what's going on. And in this, like, underneath. Okay, so for one like this, like, I would probably just start by cutting it in half. And then that's where you end up sometimes getting seconds, is if you're cutting it in half, maybe you end up cutting a tuber in half or something like that. But because this has two obvious like stems also, like where the stems came out. That's why we like Johnny's knives, because they're nice and sharp. So then these ones, like, see how there ends up being, so this one is just compost because it has no chance of like having, it doesn't have the neck and it doesn't have the eye. So then I'll start to clean this one up. These are black satin, which are pretty like clumpy also. So it's pretty normal that the tubers kind of look like that. So every tuber is a little bit different. Sometimes they're long and skinny, and it's nice and easy to see the like crown and the eye and stuff. Other ones, it's a big old clump like this. All right. So now that it's like cleaned up, I can see a little bit better. But I still can't like tell in there just because it's like so tight in there. So I'm gonna cut this one in half again. So remembering that you need this like piece of stem, or like where the crown is, so when you cut it in half, like leaving that attached. And then this tuber looks pretty ugly, so there's a mother tuber on them. That's like what the original tuber that got planted. It looks like more dry and shrivelly. So we can cut that one off. And then this is another one I would probably just leave as a clump rather than trying to divide them down. And probably same with this one. So even though it has a lot of like individual tubers on it, since you can't see down into the like where the necks are, I think if I cut into it more, it might just make a bunch of seconds. So let's try this one and see how it goes. Cut this stem off. So this will just kind of like rot in storage, so we try and cut as much of the stem off as we can. So here, so each one has its own little like puzzle. Okay, so this is one I would put in the seconds because it has the tuber, it has the neck, it has that little like line where the crown is going to be, but it's cut really short. Like, so if there is any like shriveling in storage, then this might not make it. So then for the seconds, what we'll do is we'll like sell the first, keep the seconds for us to plant, and then as they like sprout out or further again in the spring, we'll go through all the seconds before we plant. to see what we got. But we always say ugly tubers need love too, because it's like a lot of those will still produce a plant. It just is not what folks want to see when they buy tubers. All right. So this one has multiple like nice juicy tubers on them, but I can't really see like where the eye is going to be. So I am going to cut it, but I'm not going to like divide it down to individual tubers. I'm going to leave a few of them attached. So kind of same idea with the like clump. This one actually will have an eye right there. So like where the piece of stem is. And then this one we'll leave as a clump also. Okay, and then this one has like a real ugly guy right here. So we're gonna cut this whole like part off. So you generate a lot of compost in the tuber dividing world, but we try not to fill the bins all the way because they get really heavy with all the dirt. So I would only fill them about half or 2/3 or something, just so that they're able to be lifted and put in the compost. Okay, so this one broke, like the neck was loose, so I cut it off because you need the tuber, the neck to be intact, and then like where the crown is going to be. So this one I'm probably just going to leave like this too. Okay, so this one here is a good example of like there's a tuber, a neck, a crown. You can see where an eye would be, but if I cut this one off of this clump, I don't know, like I'm unsure about these ones, so we're just gonna leave it together. But that is where the eye would be, right there. All right. So then what you do is you'll work through this whole crate. You'll make a pile of firsts. These are all my firsts. Make a pile of seconds. And then they get counted as they go into their crates. We use a crate with a Dahlia bag and then put sawdust in them. And they get counted into those crates. So the firsts and seconds get kept separate. So I'll show you like the form that we write stuff down on. But that helps us to know like what's sellable and not sellable with like the final numbers of what the firsts are. So that's part 1.